our fixed assets and looking at ways that we can improve the processes for tightening up internal controls with the purchasing and obsolete equipment. We do have a few pieces that still are unaccounted for. We're working on looking in sheds and storage areas. There was a welder from 2019 that we're sure cannot locate at this time. So Dr. Herrera and I are going to be recommending to have a third party come in and review the assets and look at the inventory in the shops. So we were hoping to have something on the agenda for that. We are waiting for 2 more quotes yet to come in. We did have one quote, I believe it was for $8,500 or $8,300.
It was $8,800, and it's an appraisal, and they'll help us with inventory. They'll inventory everything in the school, in the building, for value $1,000 and up. And they'll also assist with tagging everything with 5,000 and above to align with our fixed asset list. They're also willing to go down as low as 2,500, but talking to the auditors, they did not recommend that, staying with the $5,000. It's been 3 years since we had something like that done, an appraisal, because of all the equipment that we have in the building. And I reached out to one of the contacts, and the auditors have used them in the past. They work with them. And we'll have more information at a future meeting.
I'm assuming that we have asset tax and all of that is recorded and stored.
Yeah, I was going to say, do they do the barcodes like what?
So we do have tags with barcodes, but we don't have any capability of actually using the code itself here. And our assets are tagged when we purchase them every year. For the capitalization policy at the school is $5,000. So when everything's purchased, it does, get an asset tag on. It's recorded in an Excel spreadsheet. And then, we're going through now this year and reconciling actually what's been on the list to what's actually on grounds. So
the benefit of that outside, it's a checker balance. They'll give us the information inbound. They work in a lot of different schools. And again, that will double check our records of what we're reporting. And I think it's a good start because it's been since 2018 since we've had a company come in and do appraisals and that audit.
When do you want to get this done?
That's the debate. We're looking to have that done sooner than later, but talking with Teresa in terms of the books with the audit, her recommendation is towards the end of the year in May and June.
because right now it's like, you're going to have the influx of when purchases are made partway through the school year.
It should have been done 2 months ago.
Or, yeah, and, when I was talking to Dr. Herrera, I said maybe right at the end of the school year, because a lot of times the teachers are doing inventory of their classrooms too, so that way they could help the people in the audits to say where where their stuff is and help identify. So instead of the teachers actually having to do that detail, this company would be able to help support them in that.
Is there a time frame for the Department of Education or the financial reporting that this needs to be done, or?
So right now we're doing like our normal audit, and the fixed assets are on there, and anything that has been broken or there's some safety concerns and stuff like that, they'll be removed from our fixed asset list.
So we have an ongoing fixed asset list. This is just like a refresh of that list.
And making sure that we have everything where we're saying everything is. So, okay. I mean, we found things, that first appeared that we couldn't locate them, but they've been in closets or back storage areas or different areas. So, we have located a lot of stuff, and there's still stuff that we're working on looking for.
I guess it doesn't matter if you want to do it at the end of the year, but I was going to suggest that we have some sort of motion this evening with a amount that says not to exceed. I mean, you had 1 or 2 already, right?
We have 1 quote so far. two of the other companies we call, people have been on vacation and I haven't gotten a call back for them.
But we were seriously considering that, and our internal policy calls for 2 quotes. I was able to secure 1, but the auditor likes them, and we would then, Teresa's reaching out to 2 companies. So it would be nice to have that, because I think that's important. And as a new director coming in, I'd like to know what we have in the building, et cetera.
It should be a periodic, we should do a periodic audit,
Well,
whether
and
it's
with the change
every
in
other year,
administration,
a
it should be
year.
done.
But that should be, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit later, but through Dr. Bolton, and one of the things that I would like to see is our processing and financial controls looked at to make sure that they're where they need to be and where there's holes or opportunities to improve that. And that'd be one of the things for the new business manager to do. But in this particular case, your capital assets are it's the big equipment, big hitters that we spend a lot of money on. So we should have a regular process and procedure. Take a look, make sure it's where it should be. Is it functional? You know what I mean?
That would be my recommendation too, for insurance purposes. And then if they do a follow-up next year, it's a less of a price and it's a good check and balance.
Yeah, right. The first one's gonna be painful.
So I guess we were talking about 2 different things, though. We were talking about having someone do the list with all of the assets and making sure that all of that is listed so that we're keeping track of everything.
Mhm.
But then there was also the conversation about a forensic audit. And I don't know that we need to do both, because then the person who comes in and does the forensic audit is gonna be going through and checking to make sure that we've done all those things right. I don't know that we wanna do both, so I guess I'd like to see which one makes the most sense and kind of pick which one would be more effective for what we're trying, overall what we're trying to do. And then maybe we do the opposite one at a different time, but it seems a little bit redundant and not necessarily as cost effective to do both, especially if we're already going through and making that list ourselves. Maybe the audit makes more sense than instead, but I don't know if we can get kind of a breakdown of what both groups would do if they came in, so and cost breakdown, so we can see which one makes the most sense to kind of start us off on the right track.
I think we should do the external.
Well, right, they're both external. One would be a forensic audit, and one would be them doing the assets and, my computer's not working at the moment, but the,
Appraisals of all the
Right.
equipment. and-
Yes.
so 2 different things, but both of them are outside sources that come in, and there's a little bit of overlap. And I'm just trying to determine which path would be the best one to really check all of what we're doing to make sure that we're.
Well, I think both would, but like you said, it's certainly staggered. Teresa, are both of these burdensome to the financial officer? Like, do you have to hold their hand through any of these audits, if a forensic audit or this asset audit?
So they're 2 very different audits, right? A
Yeah.
Forensic audit is a very detailed audit of everything line by line.
Mm-hmm.
So, if that's what the board wants to do, then,
Well, no, I mean,
but I mean,
That's what
again,
she's-
when you're doing that, that's really my work that you're gonna have audited. So I really don't feel like it's my recommendation.
no, I'm not even asking,
Well, I disagree that it's your work. It's auditing the finance department as a
Right.
whole, the procedures, making sure that everything is where it's supposed to be, I's dotted, T's crossed, all of the equipment that we were just talking about, making sure do we have everything tagged the way it's supposed to be? Are the amounts correct? Are they in places that we're saying they are? It just sets everything up.
I think she's just saying that she doesn't feel comfortable recommending one way or the other.
no, and I wasn't asking for a recommendation. I was just asking if we were to do one or the other or both, does the financial officer in the building have to do a lot? You certainly wouldn't want to probably do both at the same time, because they
So,
would.
I mean, when they've done the fixed assets before, you pretty much give them the list of what you have and they go around and check and make sure that's all there.
Yeah.
a forensic audit usually takes a longer time and they're really going through a lot of detail. That probably will take away from, question. I mean, because that is really, just a regular audit takes time. So
Yeah.
even a much more detailed audit will take a lot more time, and it takes a lot more time for them too.
So when you were saying do one or the other, even if we wanted to do both, they certainly shouldn't be done
I would agree.
at the same time, maybe do one this year, one,
Right,
a
so-
year later or 2 years later.
So the administration was having conversations about both of those. And that's why I'm saying, I think it'd be helpful to really see a breakdown of what each would entail and what the cost would be, so we can see it and say, okay, this covers our needs or it doesn't, right? Which one would be the better fit for what we're looking to do?
The only thing that I'm interested in are the capital assets, and the capital asset lists. And the forensic audit, that, we can do that whenever, but the capital asset list, we should get quotes to have that done to make sure that we have the assets that we think we have, where they're supposed to be, and that they're operational.
We've had massive turnover with teachers and stuff too, so, even
I mean, so.
them
you know,
taking
it's
inventory of
not
what they
trivial.
have.
It's a lot, there's a lot of money tied up there, so, and that's, my input.
It sounds to me like the forensic, what do you call it, forensic test?
Forensic audit?
Forensic audit will cover everything that the inventory audit will cover anyway, so.
That's
Right,
what she
that's
was
what I'm saying, that's what I'm saying, I don't think we need to do both, we would do one or the other. I guess I'm looking at it too, as anyone can go around and say, what do you have, and compile that information and put it together. Do we want to pay someone a lot of money to come in and do that, or do we want to pay someone to come in and check our work out?
We already have the list.
Do you know what I mean?
We have the capital.
Well, that's what I mean, that's my point,
It's
is
what
we
you
have
wanna
the
do.
But we
list.
don't know, but you have to take the list with the physical asset. That you have to match the two, and then there's a punch list. It's there, it's not there, it's over in another building or whatever. And that, I think there's value to that.
I think
Forensic
some-
audit, as far as forensic audit, we're audited every year. I'm less concerned about that. Certainly there's some controls that we can do, but I'm interested in if we think that there's opportunity, we think there's challenges with our capital assets, we should look at those, and make sure that they're what we say they are. We have a responsibility to make sure that they're there, the taxpayer. So,
I don't disagree, I think it's important for us to check all that, and that's what I'm saying. Both options would check it, but there'd be overlap, and that's where I was thinking which direction. I guess I'd like to kind of get the administration had talked about both, and I'd like to see from them when they can pull all that information for them to make a determination and bring us a recommendation about which direction they think they want to go and what the cost would be, if that makes sense, by next
I'm
meeting.
requesting from the JOC that the capital assets be audited. That's my request through Dr. Bolton. Yeah, they can do that or not do that. I suspect they will, but that's my request, because, there's opportunities, right? There's opportunities. And if it has been a while since we've done it, we should do it. Make sure that we have a process and controls in place to make sure that everything is, where it should be. I mean, that,
And Dr. Herr, in my the fixed assets, because of its age and the last time that it's been completed, you are recommending that it's done. However, there can't be action on it tonight because there are not the appropriate number of quotes yet. Is that accurate? Is that what I heard you say? That you're required to have two and currently you only have one?
Internal controls, we have one, but if the JOC deems fit, I don't know if we're able to supersede that and raise the motion that if we get other quotes to give the authority,
that's fine.
To
We don't
move forward
have
with
that
that.
on tonight, that's just my request, that's all.
So in terms of the time frame, I agree. I was hoping to also get it done sooner than later, but because of time constraints,
Understood.
we weren't able to get those. So from my position, we're ready. We have a quote. The auditors know them. They have a good reputation, Teresa, right?
And so that they've worked with them
They
before.
work
yes.
with them. The two quotes that you looked at was from other technical schools, two
One-
technical
One
schools.
was the one that did the prior report here, Duff Phelps, and then the other one, Middlebuck uses, and they just went through theirs, Middlebuck's tech school. And I think that was American, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
And Middlebuck's like theirs. And then the one who originally did ours, the first one, the other school did not like or were dissatisfied with.
No, Duff Phelps was, they didn't have opinion, that's, Lower Bucks had a different company that they did not recommend. So I didn't even bring that name to you.
Do any of
So
the
as far as quotes for us, we only have one on the table, right?
do any of the tech schools have a asset tracking system?
My understanding is it's based, when, on the internal, when you do that yourself, you know, it's whether it's whatever the medium or the technology you use, right? It's not bound, it's not accurate, it's you create that.
What we did at semiconductor factories, there was an asset tracking system, computerized barcode. You know, nothing moved anywhere, even if it went from room to room. The base software is not prohibitive, it's the manpower to get it, to get it set up. You may want to think about that and start to investigate that, because I think we have enough assets and enough locations where that, I think in the long run will help us out.
Adrian's starting to sweat when you're talking about barcode scanners.
Simple stuff.
He's got it.
I think it all depends on what we want to do.
I did it
perfectly
through that,
satisfied with the
so.
procedure that's been presented at this point. A forensic audit gets into a lot of different stuff other than what's actually here. Forensic audit will go into procedures
I'm less concerned.
and everything else. I mean, that may be something that needs to be done, but at this point, I'm fine with just doing
And we have our
the
standard
inventory
audit
type
coming up.
audit.
So we're audited for, every year for.
Yeah, but that's coming up soon, right?
They were here 2 days this week for preliminary.
Yeah, so they're here now doing that audit, like putting a forensic on top of that.
Well, right, I mean, they're completely different.
I don't think that, well, you know, but it's your call.
I think Mike was saying too, the company is booked out until January anyway. So us passing it this month versus next month isn't going to make a big difference. But we do have to get the other quotes so we can put the motion on there. So if we get those other quotes by the next meeting, then we can vote on it next.
It'd be January before you know it.
Yeah,
Actually, this one company is so booked, industrial appraisal company, they won't be able to come out right now until January. So part of the other reason for me to say, and we can seriously consider bringing this motion, was because it seems like we may get pushed out further and further too.
So you want to put something on the calendar. So
Well,
It's up to the IJRC.
the management of it is, that
Well, essentially, we have one
you
quote.
manage it the way you need.
Teresa
Guys can
indirectly
do
got
it.
other companies, but just avoided them because they came with not.
No,
very
so
good
one,
reviews.
one company from Lower Bucks, they didn't give a good recommendation.
Yeah,
Middle Bucks' company, they said they have, I called them, the lady was on vacation, she just landed the other day, she was supposed to get back to me, I haven't heard from her yet again. And then also Kevin from Duff Phelps was on vacation this week, so I would hope to have the quotes then next week for the two things, but.
so what Jim said, we could put a motion on a not to exceed and allow them to pick which company then. So they can get it, so we can start
I
to
mean,
get
that's the thing.
scheduled.
Get on the list.
First of all, there's no motion on the agenda yet, and so
Okay.
there's rules now about what motions we add,
Have to
right?
happen today, and just do the groundwork, nothing gets done anywhere in August anyway. try to get something done in Europe until the middle of September. But
But when those two quotes come back in, and you figure out which one you want to recommend, maybe you can reach out to them and say, look, I gotta get this approved, but tentatively, can you get us on the calendar? Maybe they can do that well for the next meeting.
That sounds good.
So then, kind of the audit review is we had preliminary work done for the last 2 days. The books are technically closed, so I have pretty much everything done for them. I didn't want to have to leave anything open for our new business manager coming in, so I did close the books down. If anything comes in that needs to change, we can just do, auditor entries, write them up and give them to them, and then they'll go in and make those entries into the books. So again, hopefully by the end of next week, I have all the general ledger and trial balance tied out. I just have to make copies of everything, so it's very clear what everything is, and it'll be a lot easier for her to go through everything. So they did say that they were looking in September to finish, but they did not have dates at this time.
Did you have good experience? This is a new company, right?
So, I mean, they kind of, just took their stuff and did their thing in their own little room. We went over some internal controls that, they were asking me where they were on that stuff. Asked their questions, and then they kind of quietly went out the door, so. They still have to leave a list of all, just from experience, I kind of know what they're gonna be
Asking for.
right? I mean, trial balance stuff, payroll, benefits, it's kind of the same old. It's the testing piece that, we can't pull until they actually give us that list. So as soon as, I think I heard that Tanya has an email address now, so I can start, sharing information with her as soon as we get all that done. And then the other thing on there is the oil prices. I'm not quite sure. So we have 36,000 gallons of heating oil that we've committed to for the 22-23 school year. And I budgeted $3.50 per gallon. And that's on this sheet here for everybody's reference. Right now, as of 8/16, the price came in at $369.4. So if we would lock in for the year, we would be $6,900, almost $7,000 over for the year. So there is the floating price underneath of that. It shows the difference. It would be at $331 right now for floating. So I guess there's a motion again on the agenda tonight to see how the board is going to recommend it if we lock in, if it hits $3.50, if Dr. Herrera or Dr. Bolton can lock in as soon as we hear that, or it goes below that. So I'm not sure what the committee's recommendation would be regarding the oil.
Turn the temperature down to 58.
well, I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah, from what I understand, most of the business managers in the county are kind of holding steady right now. We're not locking in, so I don't know.
We voted last night to lock in.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I think we locked in,
Okay.
we locked in a month ago, I think, for
Did you?
3 years, right?
Yeah, we did.
Okay. All right, so Palisade, let me retract that. That's right, I voted.
I have full
We didn't
confidence in
vote.
Dr. Bolton. He's been following it and helping us with it.
Well, the conversation really came down to, currently the conditions are there's about 5,000 gallons currently on site. So there is some on site if for some reason they would need some. Budgeted 36,000, but usage has been about 42,000. So actually the budgeted gallons are below what's been used the last couple of years. There are some conversations, and we'll need to put together a presentation regarding the use of propane and increasing propane use, which would decrease oil. There is a capability here just to kind of make that decision. So as I talked to Dr. Herrera, one of the recommendations we made, but it is the JOC's decision as to whether you want, how long you want to wait, or whether you just want to lock in. I know you're going to lose some money if the prices, from gallon usage, is to continue to monitor, because it's been going down. The projections are that for at least next month they should go down. Those are projections. And so it's budgeted at 350, so we know we have the money budgeted to buy that at 350. So the thought process was to continue to watch it. But if it gets to 350 next Thursday, lock in, like stop playing the game because you've already budgeted for it and don't take the chance. The other option is to wait a month, and if the price is 350 or below, you could, make a motion to do it next month. But the thought process was to not play the game if you didn't have to. But if a month from now it's still at 358, we continue to wait, or make a decision a month from now that that's close enough. We're going to lock in knowing that it's going to cause a budget strain.
So Dr. Bolton and Teresa, is the 5,000 gallons we have in the tank now, or in the tanks, would be valued at 17,500. That was on last year's budget. So if we would budgeted 32 this year and our usage is usually 42, we have $17,500 worth already sitting in the tanks that was on last year's budget.
We're comfortable,
Yeah, but
at least as of right now,
You
that we
don't,
should
you
run.
don't empty the tank.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying, we should be okay.
I've known Dr. Bolton long enough to know that he's not a gambling man. So if his recommendation is to hold off and wait and see what happens, then I think we should hold off and wait and see what happens, because he's not someone who ever usually recommends waiting to see what happens.
That's true.
But I would go a step further to say, when it gets to that magic amount, what did you say, 350? When it gets to that magic amount, for the two of you to make a judgment call, because if it's still actively dropping and you want to wait a little longer, I'm comfortable with you guys making the best judgment at that time, whether it's to lock in at 350, or if you think it's best to still wait a little bit longer. But I think the motion as written on the agenda says giving you permission to do it
350 or
after
below.
350 or below.
Right.
So I'm comfortable with that, and I would say just make the best judgment call about where you think we're gonna get the best deal.
And Don, what's the price, or Teresa, the propane price per BTU is it more efficient running on propane? So would it maybe make sense to do that switch, or does the propane not fluctuate as quickly and the propane price is still higher? Like, how does that whole balance work out? So when to go from oil to propane?
Right, well, the propane is less expensive per BTU this year because the oil is so high. So we are putting a control on our first boiler to run either oil or propane based on the software, Niagara, that controls it. Couldn't be changed on outside temperature. We can't really run more than one boiler and the small one at the same time, because you can only withdraw so much propane from our tanks. They'll lose pressure in the cold. So, that's the sort of the strategy, is to use more propane than we did last year, but we still have a quota for propane at the number that we had allotted to us.
And how do the boilers work then? When you say you can only run one boiler along with the small one is all the time propane, correct?
Yeah, that one's on right now.
And the other two can be switched, but you can't switch both at the same time,
Right.
because then you can't draw.
Right.
So no matter what, we're always going to use some oil.
Yeah.
And do you typically run both boilers? Like when the temperature is like this, you don't need heat, so you're not.
A lot of the boilers in the summer, the one boiler is running is actually to temper the air to bring the temperature up a little bit in the rooms.
Dehumidify the rooms, yeah.
But it's not near as much as the winter.
Yeah.
But the problem is with the propane delivery system, we have 4 small tanks out there, and you can only withdraw so much because they'll lose pressure in the tanks and they won't supply enough. So there could be engineering things that could be done to supply more than one large boiler.
Okay.
John, thank you for managing that during the summer, even on vacation. I know right now, until those controls are in place, you can do that manually. We appreciate it.
Isn't there hope that we would be using less too? Because wasn't there a concern that prior to you kind of coming in, that the temperature was being set and kept that way overnight, and there was no staggering of, at night or when it's not being used in weekends, and where we're kind of blowing all this for no reason? And so you're fixing all of that, right? So are we hoping that that's going to cut down on some of that usage in the next?
Yes, I think so. I'm definitely doing a lot more turning the building and the rooms to unoccupied when people are not here. So,
And you're still doing that manually then? You
Yes, I am.
haven't?
because it's like, there's some days it's like, well, this teacher's in, so I only turn his area on. And if you turn everything on and everything off, it also can affect the power factor. by-
Can you do it remotely from home now?
Yeah.
Do you have that capability? Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
But still, thank you for,
Yeah.
for doing that, because it is a full-time job. Are we looking to possibly build a little bit more automation into the programming them for you
Yeah.
in the future?
And what's good about that is you learn the system and some of the units that, hey, why is this doing this? This doesn't make
When you're
sense.
manually operating it, certainly, yeah,
And
that's,
then I usually take a screenshot, I put it in a Word document, put a blurb there, and it's like, someday I want to follow up on those. They could be a programming thing or just how it operates.
yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good. So, I'm not sure where we're at. I thought we were looking into upgrading some of those control systems. So I didn't know how much that would help down the road too with that.
I think it would help.
Yeah.
We have to understand how everything works as is and then try to identify what opportunities we have to make things more efficient and keep our rooms where we need to.
Okay, thank you, Tracy.
All right, and then does anybody have any questions on the bills payable or any of the financial reports?
Other than that, I couldn't see them.
You couldn't see it? You need to borrow my glasses? I have to put them on every.
No, I tried to go online and get to it. I couldn't get to the agenda either, so.
Is that the drafts thing?
Huh?
The whole, it's in drafts, not in the regular. And if you don't remember your password,
Oh, yeah, you
it's
gotta log in.
pain
Yeah.
in the, yeah. So, yes.
Okay.
So it'd be nice if they will put on the regular for everybody to see without having to log in.
Well, in that
It goes
executive
to
session.
drafts, it goes up to, it usually typically goes into drafts up until, 24 hours before the meeting, and then it goes live.
I think it needs to be for more than 24 hours.
Yeah,
You need to be at least 2 days. Come on, you're meeting back you met a week ago to set the agenda. Once your agenda's set, put it out.
I apologize
That's just how
for
it goes.
that because of this month of all the hires, and you'll see, this was a tough month for us, and it was late to the last minute. Typically, I don't believe we do that, but I agree, 24 hours is the bare minimum. But because of all the things that occurred over the summer, it went right to the last minute, so I apologize for that.
Everything looks fine. I mean, it's only 30 days, 20 days, whatever it is.
Okay, that's it then. Thank you.
Dr. Rod, would you like us to include that in the attachment, the bills payable too, besides,
yeah,
when we report that out?
right, because when I log in to look at it, yeah, remembering the password and everything.
So we know we started doing more attachments, and
Yeah.
we'll just include that now in that email
Yeah.
with the attachments for bills payable.
Yeah,
And the report,
And this, okay,
I mean, like I say, the first month is, July isn't much of a report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going forward.
okay. Okay, thank you, Teresa. Don?
Okay. I'd like to welcome Jeff Harris and Rose Fenner from SiteLogic. The first part of our session here will just be to ask questions. We had some questions come up the last time they were here, sort of during our second meeting, and I think we did talk through some of them through emails, and we just want to allow an opportunity to ask more questions or to understand the process if we want to move forward with their company or an energy savings contract with really any company. It's a process we have to follow. That's pretty specific, but I guess at this time, does anyone have any questions right now? I do have some handouts after we get started, maybe.
I'll just say up front that I don't see the value in the energy saving contract at this point, but can be proven to be, okay, but not yet, right? It hasn't been yet, so.
So in order to bid, you either have to bid the project out through the traditional bid cycle, or you can use a GIZA project for the guaranteed energy savings. Right, and then you don't have to bid it the same way, it cuts out on some of the duplication. They are much better at, summarizing the ins and outs of GIZA than I am, so I don't know if you wanna kind of talk a little bit about the advantages of GIZA over the traditional bidding cycle. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, which project are we specifically
The
talking
roof.
about? Oh, the roof. Oh, now I got you. Okay.
We're not working on the roof yet? Come on, it's been 2 years, what's going on?
I thought he was talking about something completely different, like like an energy audit or something like that for the building. When he said, we're not interested in the energy savings thing, and I was like, wait a minute, did something come up that I wasn't at the last meeting, so I might be a little bit behind. But, so this current roof, we already had them come out to do this $88,000 project, correct?
No, because it hasn't been bid yet, because
That was all through,
We authorized that 6 months ago.
that was through the roofing contractor, under warranty, correct?
no, not under warranty. We would be
Go
paying
back
to get it
warranty
done,
renewal.
and then they would reinstate the warranty as written,
Renewal
which, as you
warranty.
remember, doesn't necessarily cover everything that, you
Yeah.
traditionally see covered, if you remember the language of the warranty. I guess I was surprised when we got to, like, before last month, that I thought the roof project was going ahead. But then it was kind of brought to our attention that it hadn't been bid because, there was still, I guess, this decision that needed to be made about whether or not it was being bid the traditional way or GIZA. And then I actually thought that was getting discussed last facilities meeting. I wasn't here for facilities meeting. I tried to zoom in, but I couldn't hear on the phone. And then I guess we're kind of having that conversation this month, so I'm trying to catch up.
Yeah, me too. I wasn't at the last meeting either.
But I think what they're saying is they can't bid it out as a GIZA project until after we have a contract about GIZA. And that doesn't obligate us to spend anything. I think that's one of the differences with GIZA too, is they would bid it out through the GIZA process and bring us the results, and we still have no obligation to move forward with it. We would see the pricing, we would see the plan, and at that point, we decide whether or not we want to go forward with it or not, which is different than the traditional bid cycle where you're basically committing to paying for that to be bid out, and then if you don't like the results that come back, you've already spent that money. This is a situation where we're doing the roof anyway, so, I don't know that it's just a matter of whether or not it's gonna cost us less in one, by going one pathway or the other.
So the question I have is guaranteed energy savings, that GIZA, the acronym. I don't know what that last A is. Agreement, act, same thing.
So keep in mind, Penridge is the only school district that has bid something out through GIZA.
In the room.
Right,
Okay.
so no one else in here is familiar
Sure.
with that process, so this is all brand new to them. So
Yep.
think about back to when
Okay.
you guys first introduced the topic to us.
Yep.
And, you're kind of at ground zero again with everybody else in the room, so.
So, but the question then what I wanted to follow up with the GIZA is, what kind of energy savings are we gonna be guaranteed? I mean, this isn't like a full tear down roof job. This is an 80,000, this is essentially a repair.
Okay, so let me start with, in Pennsylvania, you essentially have 3 paths to procure projects like this roofing project, okay? One is the traditional path, which has been done for decades and decades in the state of Pennsylvania. And that is, you hire an architect, engineer, you pay them to do drawings and specifications. They do a public bid for you. You go out and you solicit public bids, which is the lowest bidder that has a responsible bid normally gets the project. That's option number 1. That's the traditional way we procure projects in the state of Pennsylvania.
We refer to it as design bid build.
So the second process, which the Pennsylvania state has established, is there are programs like CoStars. Many people have heard these programs where, in a similar fashion, you go out and you have a lot of vendors who are part of that state procurement platform that have contracts that have set rates for how they do work. And you can go out and have multiple people provide you pricing under that program, whereby you can, in compliance with the procurement law, you need over a certain amount of money, you need 3 or more competitive bids that you can get under CoStars, and you can decide, okay, we can take that route. That's the second legal route you can take. The third route.
Before you go to the third, so with the public, with the OmniStar or CoStar, you, entities like school districts and yourself, you have the ability to go out and procure it yourself. You don't need an architect or an engineer, and there's a threshold in terms of the amount.
The third option, which is fairly recent, is a guaranteed energy savings agreement approach. So when it first came out, it's a model of what the Department of General Services in the state of Pennsylvania has had out for years and years and years. The legislature has migrated that to allow school districts and public entities to use that as an alternative procurement method over the traditional design bid build and the programs like CoStars as a way to do projects that in its original form, it was largely based on if they had a significant amount of energy savings, you could go, that's something you could go ahead with if you so chose. The law has been modified so that for all intents and purposes, you need to look at it as a third option for procurement. It's not, it's no longer necessary that the project has to have a hardcore energy savings base for you to decide to take that approach. And what I will say is, let's talk about the traditional approach. The design, bid, build approach, one of the Achilles heels in that approach is any contractor that's able to secure a bond. If they're the low bidder, you're kind of painted in the corner of taking them. Most people are, they're, you know, let's say you get 5 bids on a project. This guy's at 100,000. This guy's at 400,000. You're not going to pick the $400,000 guy because there's no reason to. If they all can get bonds, you want to spend as least money as possible. The Achilles heel with that approach has been that's a lot of risk for the school, because what happens when you're taking the lowest responsible bidder in the public world is you have 50% of the contractor pool who is going to do a good job for you, and 50% not so much. So what happens is, unless your design professional has given you a 100%, 150% fantastic set of documents, you have people out there that are predators on school districts and will look for any way to charge you money in change orders for anything that they see gray. So, and I'm not trying to suggest that the contractors out there are terrible people trying to take advantage of you, but they're in business. They a lot of times they take these projects at or near their base margin as far as what they're going to make, or oftentimes lower, and they just game the system. And even if you can fight them, it's a pain for the school districts to have someone to fight them on a monthly basis during the course of the project, to fight frivolous complaints about why they need change orders. That's the Achilles heel of the design bid build process, okay? CoStars and the state programs, for many different types of acquisitions a public entity might want to pursue, there's a lot of things that make sense in that program, but there's a lot of things that don't. And what our experience has been is apples to apples when you compare the pricing you're going to get from that program with the pricing that we can get away with. And I'll explain to you why that's the case, is they're typically a bit higher than what we can bring to the table. Only because the way they have to price over a course of the term, which is typically a year. and they have to gamble about whatever might be coming up, labor cost, inflation, whole nine yards. But once they sign up, their prices are set. And that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what happens either in the public, the design build bid market, or what we can get away with on the GISA side. So traditionally, 9.5 times out of 10, when we're competing against public, those programs, we're usually lower. On the design bid build world, they're often at least competitive, sometimes lower, but again, the Achilles heel is the whole exposure to change order process. With the GISA, which I want to reiterate, it is a third option for procurement. It's no longer necessary that the project have to have a lot of savings associated with it. It's written into law, it's the third option you have, and the advantage that we feel gives whatever public entity it is the following. Number one is something you absolutely can't do in the design bid build world, and you can't do in the co-stars world, because in the design bid world, because of the procurement laws, once you take bids, you can't sit down, or if you hire a construction manager to manage your project, can't sit down with those contractors in the design bid build world and negotiate to make everybody happy. You can't do that. Once that bid comes in, you either accept it or you don't, and then you live with the consequences afterwards. In the co-stars world, it's very similar, because they set their pricing a year in advance, or however long the term is, and once they give you a number, again, that's the number. In the GISA world, we have the ability, which you don't have in the other two options, to, number one, pre-select high-quality subcontractors. So we have a long list of contractors, a long history of contractors that are high-quality contractors that we bring in. We don't have to negotiate with the low bid person. We bring in a series of contractors that we know are going to do the work, have done a lot of work for us, and we bid the project just like you would normally in a design bid build scenario. We don't just award a number or a project to a contractor. Every project we go out and we bid it against these high profile, very good contractors. And at the end of the day, when we get our bids in, we have the ability, unique to the GISA world, to negotiate with them. So there are things like, there's going to be scopes of work that you have defined, that we have agreed with, that we can sit with them and say, you have this covered, do not have this covered. There might be a list of alternates that we want to say, well, if we can do these two alternates, can you give us a break on these types? In other words, we can negotiate with them to get to a price point that you've established. You can't do that in any of the other options, okay? Beyond that, because of the fact that the way the law is written, once we, Site Logic and the public entity, have agreed on a scope of work, we can't come to you for change orders for things that we've missed. If we haven't done our homework and, we're renovating 16 rooms in your building and, oh my God, there's 4 we forgot about, which we knew about up front, we're not coming to you and saying, we forgot these 4 rooms, please give us, that's not going to happen. Once we negotiate a number, a base contract or an amendment, it is what it is. We take on all the risk, versus in the other scenarios, the co-stars world, you have some risk. In the design bid build world, you have a lot of risk that you have to deal with. The other big advantage, which is why we are recommending this, is as we work through looking at the facilities and looking at what you might have to do down calendar, once you sign a GISA contract, it's a 20-year contract, not mandatory. It's just the way the law is written. That's how it's established at first. And that allows the public entity to decide across time, I have this one project right now, like your roofing project, but 2 years from now, we might want to spend whatever, $1 million, a year later, $2 million on additional work. A couple of years after that, a couple more $1 million. Under the GISA contract approach, once you sign up with us, you don't have to reinvent the wheel like you do in a traditional design bid build process, where You have to go out, you have to advertise, you have to hire a new design professional, you have to go through all those motions, hire them, get them signed up, and redo everything over and over again. Under the GISA project, or approach, sorry, all you have to do is say, we want you to do the following additional work. Penridge, there's two members here, can relay this to you. We can lay out a long-term plan, and all you have to do is say, this year or 2 years, 3 years from now, this is what we want to do. Put it together for us. We put it together for you, and we write an amendment rather than have you start all over with procuring all those services. And we go out, we bid it, and we get it assigned. We get the budget established, and we procure the project. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel going out down calendar. Now, I know there's been some concern about why would we enter into a 20-year contract? It's state law. That's how you start your base contract. I can tell you right now, 75% of our clients, they'll do work. They'll have work plan that they want to do for 2, 3 years, 4 years. We get it done for them. And because their facilities people are very good at what they do, they say, we don't need to continue the 20-year program. We're not going to pay you the annual fee necessary to continue that project, which is a nominal fee. It's very small. It's hundreds to a couple $1,000s a year to continue us across the 20-year time frame. 75% at least of our clients, after we've done the bulk of the work they need done, they're satisfied with the fact that they understand how to run their buildings and they don't continue our services. So if once you sign that, trust me when I tell you, it's not etched in stone. It's completely on your side of the fence, whether you want to continue that or not. The reason it's advantageous for you to continue it is in the case of Penridge, for instance, and last week I have a 10-year client, Juniata County School District, who I'm 10 years into a relationship with them, and we've done work across all 10 years for them at their pace, and all they did was pay the nominal fee, and they decided they wanted to engage us because they wanted our help. That's an example of what you can do, not what you have to do. The advantage is when you want something done a couple of years down, you just call us and say, here's the scope of work we want to do next summer, put it together for us, we write an amendment, simple, done, you move on. Those are the biggest differences between the three procurement methods that you have at your disposal. And the issue of energy, we will do our best to provide guidance to you as far as what the energy opportunities are, but the world is no longer the fact that you have to show huge energy savings to justify the GISA procurement method. It's not necessary anymore. It is another alternative for you to consider going forward.
So the first project at Penridge, we had bid out both ways. And the GISA method did come back cheaper, which is why we ended up going with the GISA method. But we wanted to see that actually play out in real time. So we did bid it out both ways to actually see and be able to make that comparison. And then since then, we've been doing it through the GISA method because it was a cost savings doing it that way. And then you do have that. The other thing that we've done at Penridge is, you have 3 different things you may want to do. You're not sure which one you want to do. They'll bid out all 3, and then we say, you know what, we're going to do this one, but we're not going to do those 2, and it didn't cost us any money. Or, because until you sign up and say, yeah, I'm going to commit to that, it doesn't cost you anything up front. So that's essentially where we're at. So I think what they'd like us, you kind of.
So if we go down this route, does that lead us to go in the design bid build process?
Essentially, the GISA is a design bid build process. That's what you're signing up for. I'm sorry.
My question is,
design.
Can we independently?
You can
or cannot?
You can. Okay. You can. If you elect to do a parallel path where you ask us, you've already contracted with us, and you say, give us your proposal for an amendment that we're looking at to possibly do this work, and you want to independently hire someone to do the traditional process, you are not obligated. You can absolutely do that. You're not obligated to or restricted from not doing that. You can do that if you so choose. And specific to your roofing project, which is why we can get away with this and other people can't, is for all intents and purposes, the vote you took, the way we look at it is a budget establishing vote, okay? You did not, because it's over the limit, where under normal procurement processes, you would have had to procure 3 bids instead of the proposal we got from the person who services your roof. You didn't do that, so you can't proceed with that work unless you have followed one of those 3 options I laid out. That's one of the reasons why it's taken so long to get this done. You have to do that in one shape, form, or another. We just think it's more advantageous. And the other thing is, specific to the roofing, because we thought there's a need here, and we still think there's a need here for you guys to look at us down calendar, we used his proposal at face value. We didn't mark it up whatsoever because, as Megan laid out earlier, we have the ability to assist you in whatever you need done in the early stages without charging for every nickel and dime that we might have to spend to help you guys get done with what you need done. You're not going to get that in any of the other 2 procurement methods. You publicly bid this, you're going to spend money on engineering services that have to be done to satisfy the law, or you're going to spend co-stars, which is going to be higher than the number that you were provided direct from the manufacturer, which we are going to uphold. So the only point I'm trying to make is, all we're saying is, I think this is the best approach for you guys if you plan on doing more work down calendar within the next 5, 7, 8 years. It's good.
So the question is, now you have, your initial study that you did, it said the other roofs are, gonna probably need to be replaced at this time and this time. Well, the circumstances may change a bit here now, because our enrollment has gone through the roof this year. So now we're going to possibly we are going to look into a facilities utilization study. And that could end up being, so we end up with an addition or end up doing something else. So, does it make sense to replace a roof that's just going to be ripped off in an addition anyway, possibly in a couple years, So. Well, I'm just saying, she wants to rain. That's what she thinks.
I said, why replace the roofs? Just build an extra floor and then build a roof on top.
So
That would probably
Actually-
cost more than you can ask.
No, Bob had some ideas about, did Bob share some of his ideas with you about doing that?
But anyway, so I guess the real question for me is, this is all new, and I know Penn Ridge has been using it, and you explained it pretty well, but I'm still not sure, when you're signing a 20-year agreement with somebody that, that's something we can do tonight. Certainly our solicitor would have to review and everything
No,
else.
but that's not what they're asking for. The motion on there is just to go out for GISA bids. They would put in a bid, and then we would approve the contract that's submitted. And again, you can terminate the contract anytime you want. But it's not like when we're making contracts with employees and.
Yeah, I said we're hiring them for 20 years.
Right, we're the
Then
ones
they're
that
joining the teachers union and they're gonna get tenured, and we're never gonna be able to fire them.
So another thing to understand is, and we're well aware of possible enrollment issues, possible changes in your long-term plan. We have all of the resources necessary to help you down calendar, which is why we're suggesting the GISA. If you're building a new addition, which normally can't be done under a GISA project, we have construction management services to help you. We have pre-construction service to help you price these things as an architect that you might hire independent of us, which we're perfectly fine with, help you price these things out. Us being engaged with you will help you streamline those processes so you don't have to reinvent them again over and over and over again. And the roofing project we're talking about, unless Don tells me differently, they need 10 to 20 calendar days. So if you want to push this out to September, you want to push this out to October, he has enough time to get that done. I want you to have enough time to think about what I'm telling you, because I still think at the end of the day, the GISA has too many legs for you to ignore down calendar and forget about the 20-year term. Like I said, it's a state requirement when you sign that initial contract. It means nothing, I'm telling you. I can give you a lion's share list of our clients who have signed that 20-year contract and said, we don't need you, we're good. Don't feel you're painted in the corner of that. That's just a law thing when you sign the first contract. It's not something that you have to follow through on down calendar at all.
Is there a penalty if you?
There's no penalty. There's no penalty.
So how is this different than having a architect, engineer, whatever, a record?
Okay, so the big thing that's different is you hire an architect and engineer, you're gonna pay them a fee, they're gonna do a design project for you. They're gonna put together a set of construction documents, specifications, that then you're gonna have to pay them or someone to put on the street to publicly bid.
Okay, you're going to do all that.
We do all of those things.
You brought all those
All
different
of those-
architects,
Yes,
engineering firms.
yes, yes.
So the
That's the
initial,
difference.
right, so the
Okay, that's all I need to know.
The initial base visa contract would be for 88,000, no more, no less.
Okay.
That would cover your roof.
And my question is then, so is Site Logic Reynolds Engineering, or do you work with Reynolds Engineering?
For all intents and purposes today, forget you heard the term Reynolds Engineering. We are Site Logic. End of story, full stop.
Okay, I didn't know how that relationship worked.
So-
I figured it was like,
So in full disclosure, I started in 2012. It was Reynolds.
okay,
And me in 2010,
And Rose in 2010. So
it was Reynolds Construction.
it was Reynolds Construction.
Engineering,
Yes.
Reynolds Energy.
We are now a national platform called Site Logic and have much broader capabilities to serve.
so you've just grown out of, you're not, Reynolds Engineering still doesn't do your engineering work.
Oh, right. the three
Reynolds
companies-
Architecture doesn't do your architect,
Right.
so you're not hiring yourself down the road. That's what the questions I was,
No.
The three companies have rolled into the site.
okay, I got it.
And we have,
We use Reynolds, I didn't like them. So
You use
Good.
Reynolds General Contractor,
we use
which,
Reynolds as a construction manager.
right, which my understanding was a completely separate,
Yes, that's what he just said.
right.
all things Reynolds considered dead.
Okay.
All right. So is everybody comfortable with that motion's on the agenda for tonight? Put that out.
So I assume, because I'm not familiar with it, if they have a contract that they used for certain things here, you would include that in your bids.
One of the first is once the school district says to us, we want to do a project or a series of projects. One of the first things out of my mouth when I come down and meet is, more importantly, which contractors will you kill me if I bring to the table? And then I will ask after that, do you have a preference? And we will bring them to the table. There is no, unless there's a rare occasion, and I haven't seen it since I've been here in 2012, where there's someone we've worked with that you say you like, we would have a conversation, but otherwise, you give us a list of contractors, we will contact them and we'll say, engage us, we want pricing from you.
So you could do our facilities utilization study too?
Absolutely.
They're a one-stop shop.
And that's no joke.
That should say no.
Does the tech school have any project manager? Yes. I'm curious.
Yes. Yeah, we're using that.
I mean,
That's a
there's
beautiful-
been an addition recently, so I'm sure there's past relationships there, but,
But one now, yeah, project manager.
We don't use that. 2%.
Okay, everybody got on that?
I'm good.
That was the last thing for facilities?
C&J environmental summer cleaning update.
Yeah. C&J Environmental, just an update on summer cleaning. They have done a very thorough job, we believe, and, they start by taking old furniture out, stripping the wax, putting new wax down, doing overhead lights and things that we hadn't seen in a long time. So, through working with them since April, we have grown as a school and we have got a couple new classes. So with exercise science, healthcare, careers, and dental, we've asked, the owner of C&J to provide a number for some additional services for areas that we feel should be included in their scope of work. And so they came back with us and are saying that for $20,000 a year, which would be based on a 5-day work week at about $83 a day. They can include, the dental lab areas, the healthcare lab areas, the new wellness center in the basement, which used to be the old cafeteria. They're going to be, of course, checking the restaurant floors for utilization if we're going to use that for student lunches and things like that. So they were just asking for our consideration for that change order. But that's a motion tonight to vote on.
Okay, floors look amazing, the building looks amazing. Kim, the staff love them. They've been.
We're very happy.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, if they're gonna be covering additional areas and you feel that this price that they set seems reasonable for those additional areas, then I mean, we're using more areas than we were before, we have to pay to clean them, the way I see it.
I think it works out to like $79 per day.
Yeah, it said, I think it just said 83 or 84.
Sounds reasonable, but.
I wouldn't clean them for $83 a day. If you brought me in every day to do it, I'd charge a lot more. Just saying.
That's all I have.
All right. Thank you. I think we're ready for our regular meeting and only 8 minutes in.
All right, then we'll adjourn and we'll take a minute.
I'm going to jam.
The Upper Bucks County Technical School JOC meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And just a reminder, we had a public comment. It was kind of hard to tell when people are talking if they zoom in, if we don't have our cameras on. So just a reminder, board members could potentially turn on their cameras if they're comfortable. And then that brings us to, we're skipping number 2 because Mrs. Graham is able to make it in. So that brings us to number 3. So Mrs. Graham, could you please call roll? Ms. Van Clemens here. Mr. Spear.
Here?
Mr. Hallowell.
I am here.
Mr. Chiliak. Here. Mr. Ott.
Here.
Mr. Shermer.
Here.
Mr. Rice.
Here.
Mr. Post. Mr. Wertz.
Here.
Okay. That brings us to public comment, and just a reminder that the first public comment period is for agenda items only. Please state your name and district of residence. Is there anyone here in person who would like to make a public comment? Okay, then we'll look online. I don't see anyone online. Okay. And we will move on. There will be an executive session following this meeting to discuss agreements and personnel matters. And that brings us to the director's report. Dr. Herrera?
Okay, thank you, everyone. I just want to reiterate how I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to be part of Upper Bucks County Tech School. We're putting a great team together. It's a great summer. The facilities look great. Thank you. I wanted to welcome Dr. Bolton, who has hit the ground running, has been a great mentor on a lot of different areas, very knowledgeable, passionate. I'm glad that he's on board, and thank you.
It took me 4 years, but I finally got promoted to the JOC. I did something right. It's been wonderful. This is my 5th year at Penrith, so I've been there 4 years. And it's been wonderful to watch not only the growth, but the impact that this tech school has had. So I look forward to spending more time up here and know it even better. So thank you.
And someone that doesn't get a lot of thank you but does so much is here sometimes till 10 o'clock at night and rush back. And I don't know, I know she doesn't like this, but thank you, Mrs. Cram. Congratulations. Coming back, because you never know, like, who's going to take the minutes and you realize you can't replace her. So thank you so much for all that you do. For our donation report, I nominated Julia Kemmerer. Like, the awards kept on coming through Tech Force, and they randomly pulled my name for the nomination, and they donated $75, which goes back to the school. So that's for the donations. We've had a busy summer here at Upper Box. And as you can see, we filled a lot of interviews. We've got the right people on the bus, you know. And so from those positions, we're currently not filling the supervisor CT currently. Mr. Ritter, Mr. Gale picked up a lot of those responsibilities. We appreciate that last year. So it's been a busy summer. I wanted to show the teacher tenure for the group, just to show in the number of staff that have been at Upper Box 1 year and less is in the green. 2 years and less, which is in the color we just had.
Blue.
Blue, royal blue, any royal spins? And we had receiving tenure last year. Now they're like, Mr. Dietrich's here 3 years. So if you look at this, half of our staff has been here 3 years or less. But we still have great senior staff members who we value, and we're going to be talking about later in the report to mentor the younger staff. So we really need a strong teacher induction plan. And so we had a fantastic first day. Mrs. Kukas and I were just talking about this. We had Scott Shamandel from OSHA Safety, Tyloo, Max. We had our senior teachers preparing the teachers for the next school year. And that was day one. And it was great. Very lucky. We did a great job hiring the right people. And luckily, they all came back. And they're still smiling. And we also added, you'll see Mrs. Miller, Mary Miller, who's dedicated her life to UBCTS. She's part of the Temple induction plan. She had an opportunity to meet her colleagues, friends, almost like family members, helping us induct the next generation of teachers. And she got to tour her own spot and was just amazed. She's like, the school is beautiful, loves the direction that it's going into. And we really throw a lot at them, right? It takes 10,000 hours to learn the art and science of teaching. So special education, this is free, giving all of her years experience. Our safety, Mr. Gale, our all hazards plans, Canvas, Power School, etc. But it's great. It's great to pass the torch. Mrs. K, not knowing I was presenting this, said I'd like to talk about this process. Mrs. K.
I think the 2 days went amazing. Doctor, I really would like a copy of that tenure because that just blows my mind that Mrs. Danka is kind of like right in the middle and she's only been here 5 years. So that lets you know what kind of turnover we've had. And because of that turnover, one of the things that we really, the association officers and Dr. Herrera have really been talking about working on is the culture and climate of the room and bringing back that camaraderie. And don't be afraid to ask for help because that went out the door. But we're trying to bring that back in. And that's one of the things that we really emphasize with all of our new teachers. Don't be afraid to ask for help because we all need help. Even like I'm going into my 31st year, there are still things. ask Mr. Wagenhurst down there, I'm constantly needing help. You know, we all are constantly learning, like everybody needs to learn something new every day. So we're really gonna be working on the culture and climate. And I really think that we started to build a good rapport with our new teachers that came in. And we're gonna be go back to offer some mini after-school sessions that won't be mandatory, but, you know, just things that help us all and bring some learning communities back that we used to value that were taken away from us. And that's how we grow professionally as well. I've really missed those the last couple of years, so we're going to be bringing a lot of that back. So we've been in contact with Dr. Herrera about a lot of those things, but it was really nice having Mrs. Miller back, and Cindy Dobbins is second from my left up there in the black shirt. She was a facilitator here for several years. I had her in my classroom and she was amazing, and now she's working with Temple, and she's one of the facilitators that gets out and works with the new teachers, and she's phenomenal, just like Mary Miller is. So I think we had a really good start to the school year so far. So I'm looking forward to next week coming back and enjoying the year.
Thank you. So on the agenda, we technical assistance program, we got a lot of resources, but we want to be strategic, so we don't want to overwhelm the instructors. We also met as a team for the professional development. Mr. Dietrich, Mrs. K, Mrs. Diaz, because we want to be very strategic in our professional development. We have a great career and technical distinguished school leader. Dave Thomas was the executive director of York. I've been in contact with. He's coming in September 8th. An excellent program at York County, strong secondary, post-secondary. So I'm glad to bring him on board as a resource. We always get the NOCTI pre-tests and study guides. This year, we're going to be testing all juniors, even if it's year one, and seniors. That'll give us a better feel for our curriculum and help with Act 158 to make sure that they're ready. So we're super excited about that. Mrs. Nice has really helped with that NOCTI and is going to help schedule that. So we appreciate her help. Southern Regional Educational Board is a heavy hitter in professional development throughout the country, along with Todd Luke and Max. And as you've known, our initiative with a universal design for learning through CAST, we all met together because we don't want to overwhelm the teachers. We want our professional development to be pointed, to be impactful and meaningful. So we've done a lot of pre-planning. We have an excellent professional development plan in collaboration with the staff that we're very proud of. My presentation at ACTA went very well. It was received. We met with representatives from Patton, because you never know who's going to be in the audience. And they were very impressed with the impact CTE has on students with disabilities that have IEP in 504. So they said we're on the right track, and we're looking forward for that initiative for the rest of the year. We've met with safety security is always a key component. Meeting with the board, the direction was clear, make sure our students and our faculty are safe and secure, do what you need to. Chief Phelan and I continue to meet. Mr. Ritter's a big part of that. Mr. Gale, we're creating, with your permission, an office space for them that the students will see, they're visible. And there's an MOU that's going to be in place. Having them on campus is invaluable. The culture and climate of Upper Bucks is they're not the enemies. They're here. It's a good relationship. They've been in the weight room. It's not negative, but they can use our bulletin boards and help keep our building, our faculty, students safe. Super excited about that. We're bringing back Share 911, which is an app. It's an instant communication one. Next Tuesday, we're meeting with representatives from EMS, fire, the police, and our staff to do that instant communication through Share 911. And through a Blazemark, which has done a wonderful preparedness plan for us, which they'll label all of our facilities, gas, and stuff like that to share with the community, to also keep our first responders safe. So when they're coming on, they know what's here. Very, very happy with that plan. So those are the safety security updates. I mentioned a couple of months ago that we worked with the Bucks County Workforce Development Development Board and secured a $400,000 grant. We had a meeting with representatives from that organization, the two other technical schools. Mrs. Pakula was there at the meeting. We're happy to see some art in the audience tonight, to be very strategic and maximize pre-apprenticeship model, which we have built in as a CTE. We've been to get those grants and place students. Our first initiative is going to be electrical. We have a great relationship with ABC, where we've taken the lead with that, and also IBEW 375. We went out and visited Mr. Guest, myself, just doing what we've always done, but now we're going to get the resources additional to celebrate and promote those. Mr. Young brought back Yamaha on the agenda tonight. Is the articulation agreement to give our students access to Yamaha Motor University, and they'll be able to access all of Yamaha's manuals, etc. So super excited about that. And just the dedication of our instructors, Tinicum Police Department was looking to do some chainsaw training last week. Mr. Young just continues to go above and beyond keeping our officers safe and secure. And we appreciate that. It's the beauty of being in CTE. And then I also have some bios, which I'll hold off on that report until maybe when we get to that area.
Okay.
I thank you. Is there any questions or comments on my report?
I had a quick question. The Yamaha articulation agreement, did they get a certificate from that as well? So that's an additional.
Yeah, they'll get trainings, and that'll put them, the Yamaha dealers are super excited.
So they're.
When they have that certificate,
They
they'll
can
go
look
there.
at a Yamaha dealer. Great.
And the person was saying, they have competitions, national competitions, international, they compete, Yamaha. It's a wonderful organization.
Okay, that brings us to our subcommittee reports, facilities.
Okay, tonight we talked about, we met with Site Logic and they explained in detail the visa agreement option of procuring our roof repair, and also moving forward the option of using them to consider other projects here. And we also talked about CNJ Environmental, our custodian crew, how they were asking for a change order to do additional work for areas we are utilizing for new classes, and trying to add some areas in the dental and healthcare areas that were not previously under their scope.
And finance?
Tonight, we went over a fixed asset review and the different processes that we're putting in place to help with purchasing and storage of our fixed assets. The JOC did discuss different audit options. We talked about the regular financial audit that is underway. They were here 2 days this last week, and they will be out again in September. We reviewed the oil prices, and there will be a motion on the agenda for Dr. Bolton and Dr. Herrera to lock in if they see fit, if the oil prices drop down to $3.50 or lower.
And policy and programs committee subcommittees did not meet. Did you have any updates for them, or just, okay? And that brings us to the consent agenda, which includes the June minutes, the special July 11th minutes, June and July financial reports, July and August bills payable, personnel recommendations, which I'll get into more specifically in a minute. The proposed cafeteria prices for this coming school year, approving Dr. Reynolds from Tri-Valley Primary in Quakertown to be the physician at a rate of $350 for the entire school year. Approving participation in cooperative bids, which are all listed. Approve the proposed baking, auto collision, dental, veterinary assisting fee schedules for the school year. the MOU between the technical school and the Bureau of Career and Technical Education for participation in BCTE Technical Assistance Program, the change of the local name of the Animal and Veterinary Sciences to Veterinary Assisting Program, renewing the one-year contract with Swift Reach for this school year, providing Power Teach messaging and unlimited messaging through Swift K-12 for Power School for this coming school year at the annual cost of $1,781.55. Revised rates for substitutes, student workers, and other positions effective July 1st. Approving the textbooks for curriculum purposes and an addendum with ESS to provide additional support staffing needs starting for this school year. And then as far as the personnel recommendations, it includes substitute teacher, secretarial, cafeteria, and instructional facilitators. The teacher mentors, the new job description for the cafeteria cook. It includes new hires for our culinary instructor, 2 culinary instructors, the resignation of 2 of our employees, the technology coordinator, instructional facilitator wages for 3 employees, a new hire instructional facilitator, another new hire instructional facilitator, the other culinary arts instructor, and the cafeteria cook. Did you want to elaborate on anything with that, or do you want me to move those forward?
Move forward, but I have some files. I don't know if we're going to do that before.
Your call. Which do you prefer?
I guess.
We could vote on everything but that and then do that separately and he can read the
Well,
bios as
first-
we're doing.
So, is there anything in that consent agenda that anyone needs voted on separately?
No, I was just gonna make a motion to.
Well, hold on, because I actually need something voted on separately. So, so nobody else says, okay. I'm gonna ask for a motion to approve, under item E, personnel recommendations, items H and J. Can I get a motion to approve those?
A second. I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. I am abstaining because of relatives that's the reason I'm abstaining from these. Does anyone have any questions or comments about these?
This is just H and J?
Just H and J under personnel recommendations. Yes, if you open up personnel recommendations.
Yeah.
Then H and J that's under it, right? So E is personnel recommendations, and then H and J.
May not be on, oh, is it on the printed one?
If you open it up.
Just sequence. There's no something.
H is cooperative bids and
Wait,
J is.
No.
No,
E is
one-
personnel recommendations, and then if you click on the link for personnel recommendations, it opens up.
Yeah.
And then you have items A through L. So the motion that Mr. Rice made was for H and J.
Sorry.
I think that the proper way to do this
And
would
who seconded it? You, and Mr. Ward seconded it, okay?
That's just under. Okay.
Yeah, so just those.
I didn't see that.
So if there's no other questions or comments, I'll call those in favor?
Confused.
You're confused.
Again,
Just H and J.
just H and
H and
J
J.
with under
Under-
the personnel.
Under the personnel.
So you're
Jim,
taking, you're just voting on the personnel recommendation.
On two items on the personnel recommendation,
H and J, okay.
okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I abstain, so the vote is 7-0-1.
So for you new teachers that are sitting in the back, congratulations. Thank you.
And then could I get, not yet, that wasn't.
Oh, I thought we just heard.
Not yet.
Okay.
And then,
Okay.
okay, can I get a motion, sorry, to approve on the consent agenda, items A through O, with the exception of H and J under E.
I'll make a motion.
Moved by Mr. Rice.
A through O, except H and J.
Do I have a second?
Under E.
Seconded by Mr. Shermer. Questions or comments from board members?
No. Complex, but yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 8-0.
Now, congratulations.
I could have just kept personnel recommendations separate, but I wanted to vote on all the other ones, so. And then, did you want to read the bios?
Sure, yeah. Tanya, I'm not sure if she's on, she's taking her daughter to us, like Mrs. Cram, to school tonight.
Oh, do you want to do that? Do you want to just do, so we actually,
Oh,
those are
Sorry.
separate motions.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, I will start with Amber Underdown. I don't know if she knows that, needs any introductions though, but Amber, stand up, please. So, yeah. Amber's a very proud alumnus of the culinary UBCT as Culinary Arts Program and a graduate of Penridge High School. She returned to UBCTS in 2011 as the facilitator for culinary. For 5 years, she worked with the instructors to develop engaging curricula, increase NACI scores, and work closely with the students. Some of them went on to gain recognition through Skills USA and the Culinary Challenge. She worked for a local restaurant and was respected as a caterer and working with various ones during this time. 2016, she became the food manager at UBCTS. She transformed the kitchen into a mostly from scratch menu. She worked with teachers to create a unique learning opportunity for students in culinary arts and baking, serving as a co-op for a couple students, which I remember, and our takeout meal program and caterers. So she resurrected fundraisers loved by the community. So we'll go back and forth. Community, community, community. And that was Breakfast with Santa and Breakfast with the Easter Bunny. In 2019, we received a food truck, and everyone was like, well, what are you going to do with the food truck, right? Who do you turn to? Amber. So she took that, she ran with it. She did a lot of events, sometimes taking Mrs. Nicely on the road and just make it happen through her contacts. I remember people coming to us for like volunteer hours. It could be 6, 7 o'clock at night. She never turned the community down. Because of these successes in the kitchen, she was awarded the, excuse me, what was that, Amber?
School Nutrition Association National Manager of the Year.
Penridge stole you for a little bit to food production, Penridge. Still work with Mr. Dietrich, and when I say that jokingly, never left, continue to work. Worked on different projects to benefit the community. And we're one community, all 3 sending school districts and the tech school. So I did say that jokingly. She worked with restaurants, which scratch recipes and et cetera, and that farm to table. So her dedication to the community, students, faculty who love her is nothing prodigious. And she will instill her love of culinary. So congratulations, and we're glad to have you. And in between, Jocelyn, would you stand up, Remick? So we're really down facilitators, and we've always talked to all our students, like, come back and be a CTE teacher. It's a model, right? And the first one that took us up on that offer, and I think it's her relationship working with Chef Ott and Underdown as a mentor, was Jocelyn. So Mrs. Free and Mrs. Natitis interviewed. I had the opportunity to sit on during that interview. What really came across, Jocelyn, is your love and willingness to work with students, to help them. Using examples when you learned sign language, because you didn't want a student not be able to watch the talent show and you work with, in the community as a babysitter, et cetera. There is a national model for students like Jocelyn that graduate CTE programs and over the course of 5 years get the industry experience, and this is what Shafan did, get the continued education, but with our staff like Mrs. Kukas and Mrs. Freed learn the art and science of teaching. So the person who created that, Dwight Treepersons, is a friend, and he started that program, Success Via Apprenticeship in New York, 20 years ago. It's very successful, best kept secret. He will be visiting UBCTS in the fall. Very happy of what we're doing here in the direction. And I had the conversation with Mrs. Miller when she came back. And Temple's reaching out to all the seniors and saying, you may want to go into teaching and teach the next generation. So Jocelyn, you're in good partnership. You have a great relationship with Chef Ott, and we thank you for coming back and serving the community. And last but certainly not least, Larry Fortunato. So Larry is a game changer in culinary. One of the things we love about him and Chef Ott is being able to work together. His reputation of helping us in the past, sitting in on interviews, seeing him at the Skills USA Challenge, just going above and beyond, like watching his work from afar. So we're glad to have Larry on board. He resides in Salisbury Township with his wife, Lori, for 30 years. His wife is a second grade teacher. They have 2 adult children, Carly and Nicholas, who live and work in the Lehigh Valley. He was a culinary arts instructor for 27 years. Bethlehem, Pottstown Senior High School, Berks, Western Montgomery Center. He's a current member of the Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association and the American Culinary Federation, Greater Lehigh Valley Personal Chefs Association, where he holds a secretary position. He's passionate about working with students at UBCTS and joining that, even though he's a new person to culinary, balancing out that senior staff member, working closely with Chef Ott. We believe that they'll have a great relationship and serving our community. Larry, we're glad you're on board.
And next, could I have a motion to approve Tanya Nelsonick as business manager of the Upper Bucks County Technical School for a 3-year term effective August 22nd, 2022, according to the terms of the agreement?
I'll make a motion.
Moved by Mr. Rice. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Spear. Questions or comments from board members? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 8-0.
Tanya Nelsink, I'm not sure if she's on, is a retired military officer with 25 years of experience with the United States Coast Guard, serving as a Marine Environmental Protection Officer, Public Affairs Officer, Finance Officer, and Admissions Officer for the United States Coast Guard Academy. Her service includes 9/11, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and Deepwater Horizon. Ms. Nelson possesses 15 years of public policy experience with the New Jersey legislature, where she served as both Director of Policy and Chief of Staff. Her experience with state and national policy with implementation of initiatives such as No Child Left Behind and will help her in this position, along with her support of budget and appropriations, higher ed, ag, natural resources, transportation during her time with the legislature. With several years of collegiate experience with the Coast Guard Academy, she joined Hunter and Polytech in 2014, where she served as the Assistant Business Administrator, Student Services Coordinator, and Director of Grants Management, Admissions, and Security. She's managed more than $2.5 million in grants for the school district and was responsible for their marketing, social media efforts, tech services, and school security, with $300,000 in upgrades to that work. Currently, she then transitioned to Pennsylvania, where she worked with the Bureau of CTE. We love them, by the way, if anyone's on. Overseeing CTE articulation agreements between secondary and post-secondary. Her professional goals and objectives goes back to serving students. So we're trying to get at staff, and you got it, the community. She's a current doctoral candidate with Centenary University. She holds 2 master's degrees in educational leadership from St. Peter's and public affairs from Rutgers. She's a paralegal with certifications as a school business administrator, safety specialist, and public affairs administrator. She also sits on the Coast Guard Academy annual nomination process for students in New Jersey and adults in New York and Pennsylvania. Ms. Nelson possesses numerous recognitions and awards, including Federal Woman of the Year. She is both local and national veterans organizations and active in her children's schools and athletic groups. I'm not sure if she's on, but Tanya, we're glad to have you as part of the team. Okay. Yeah, still it.
Okay, next, I'm going to ask to amend the motion to make it a 3-year. So I'm going to ask for a motion as amended to appoint Stacy Bakula as the Assistant Director of the Upper Bucks County Technical School for a 3-year term effective upon the release from her current employer according to the terms of the agreement.
I'll make the motion.
Moved by Mr. Rice, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mrs. Kachowiak. Comments or questions from board members?
Mrs. Baines, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think to be safe, since we amended a motion, I think we ought to call for public comment.
Sure.
Since there was an adjustment to the posted agenda, I think if you change an agenda item, I think you do have to allow for public comment before you vote on it. So I think we should at least ask.
I think that's just to be add a motion that wasn't on there before, but we'll be safe.
Yeah, but without the solicitor here, I think we ought to be safe. I'm sorry. Just
Okay.
to ask for public comment just in case since it's an adjustment.
Okay, any comments?
Nothing
I don't
else.
see anything. Okay, then we have a motion in a second, seconded by Mrs. Berchowiak. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Congratulations.
Stacy, I've known as a parent, a colleague for many, many years. She's been involved in career tech ed since 1997. She's worked into numerous positions and moved into administration in July 2013. She worked for 6 years as a supervisor of CTE before advancing to the assistant director in July of 2019. She possesses a Master's of Science in Career and Technical Education from Temple University, in addition to master's level coursework in psychology at LaSalle University, which will be very helpful working with our students and bringing that community to Upper Bucks County Technical School. She maintains Pennsylvania Supervisor of CTE and Director of CTE certifications. She's earned a bachelor's degree in psychology from James Madison University and is a graduate of Central Bucks Chamber of Commerce Leadership Advancement Program. Mrs. Bakula has 12 years of experience as a certified test supervisor through ACT and is accredited Students Assistance Program, SAP Facilitator, Homeless Bullying Prevention Specialist, QPR Suicide Prevention Gatekeeper. Stacy is a member of Psi Chi, the International Honor Society in Psychology, Pennsylvania Association for Career and Technical Administrators, and Pennsylvania Principals Association. Stacy and her family live in the Quakertown area. Her husband is a CTE teacher in Montgomery County. Her daughter, Katie, who needs no introduction, is Student of the Month and a senior right behind her.
That's great.
Graduated from her healthcare career program at Upper Bucks County Tech School and Quakertown Community High School. and we were very lucky to have her. She is attending college to pursue a nursing degree while staying on the staff at the optometry office, where she began as a co-op student. We're glad that she's continuing that. We're lucky to have her son Luke as a rising ninth grader student at Quakertown Community in Upper Bucks County Technical High School. He's also a member of the freshman football team. So it's great that she'll be, joining that community. We have family. She's, cares extra. I was on the phone with Mr. V from Quakertown, and I heard he was a great punter. And I know I use a goalie. And this morning he goes, once a year I'm out there kicking punts. So it's just great. Side note, and I don't know what position he plays, but we're glad that he's coming on board with a stellar class, a record number of students. And she looks forward to joining, and thanks to JOC members and staff for this opportunity. So,
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Every football game, so I'm gonna be watching for him now.
Well, he plays on Thursdays, I believe,
Oh, okay.
but he has to work every varsity game, so we'll be there.
Maybe we'll have the food truck there too.
There you go, yeah. Okay, next I will ask for a motion to approve the comprehensive plan.
I'll make a motion.
Moved by Mr. Rice, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Spear. Questions or comments from board members? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Next, I'll ask for a motion to approve a change order with C&J Environmental Inc. to clean the exercise science classroom, health and wellness classroom, dental classroom tile floors, healthcare careers tile floors, cafeteria serving, and kitchen prepping area floors to perform additional cleaning starting July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023 for an additional amount of $20,000 due to the additional student enrollment and cafeteria limitations.
I'll make a motion.
Moved by Mr. Rice. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Schomer. Questions or comments from board members? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Next, can I have a motion to approve the MOU with the Bedminster Township Police Department to provide them with a workspace within the Upper Bucks County Technical School building per the terms of the MOU?
Make a motion.
I'll second it.
Moved by Mr. Rice, seconded by Dr. Ott. Questions or comments from board members?
I did have a question. Did you decide on a space for them?
Yes.
Okay, so it's all set up, ready to go. Well, I don't know if they're gonna come in and decorate. Put a picture of their Dover, or their German Shepherd on the wall.
Mr. Wagenhurst has been very helpful in helping secure that, to make sure that they have the space, along with Mr. Royer, and that it's comfortable and that they'll have everything that they need. And we've met on that, and they're super excited. And so we're yes, so the answer is yes.
Anything they need or anything you need to support them, make sure that your Dr. Walsh is ready for it. I think it's a good activity and it's important.
Will do.
Absolutely.
Does Bedminster have a dog?
No.
Canine? No.
Not yet anyways.
I was gonna say, when they do, we can offer them pet sitting and grooming.
All right, any other questions or comments about this one?
I'm not sure, we also have something on AZ.
Is that, yeah,
Oh, we have to vote on this one.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Next, I'll ask for a motion to approve the Yamaha Motorsports Agreement to provide access to their dealer system and Motor University training website.
I'll make a motion.
Moved by Mr. Rice,
I'll second it.
seconded by Dr. Ott. Questions or comments from board members? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Okay, next, could I have a motion to authorize the administration to publicly advertise as required by the procurement code to solicit qualifications for a Guaranteed Energy Savings Act project?
I'll make a motion for that.
Moved by Mr. Rice. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Spear. Questions or comments from board members? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Could I have a motion to authorize Dr. Bolton and Dr. Herrera to lock in 36,000 gallons of heating oil should the price fall $3.50 or below per gallon?
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Mr. Rice, seconded by Mr. Shermer. Questions or comments from board members?
Okay, I'm fine. I thought we were talking about 40,000 gallons, but. but
Dr. Herrera, is that,
40,000 extra
you want 36,000 or is that correct?
on a daily price.
Right, well, they,
We currently have 17,800 here.
Like I said, we're not gonna leave the tanks empty come June.
Yeah.
It's 5,000 gallons.
Is that the number you're looking for, Dr. Herrera?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 8-0. And before we go to public comment, did you want to speak to something else? Was that under personnel?
Personnel.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which we already voted on, correct? Okay. So Adrian Wagenhurst, congratulations.
Oh, he was in there.
Being, I knew you position. So you stepped in and were an army of one for many months. We had Dan Lazzoki from Bucks County Intermediate Unit, who's been a great resource. We value and respect him. He's given us his time, expertise, and he was involved with the screening and the interview process, and without question, we got the right person. Adrian was born and raised in Allentown, Pennsylvania, graduated from William Allen High School, and joined the Army. It was the Army of One. Adrian was a signal support specialist. He completed 2 combat tours in Afghanistan. After the Army, he married his wife Samantha on August 18th, 2012. If you're thinking August 18th, this is his anniversary.
And you're still here.
And Samantha, thank you for sharing Adrian with us tonight on JOC Meeting. After the Army, he worked for a company called Tedesco. At that time, he earned his master's degree from DeVry University in Computer Information Systems. Amazingly, he's done the master's degree in under 3 years, which is unheard of. It is testament to his always finishing what he starts. And we see that in the day-to-day. He worked for Tedesco for 7 years, but wanted to get back more into the IT role, which led him to apply as the help desk technician in 2019. He has 3 children, 2 girls, 1 boy, and on March 2nd, 2023, they're expecting another. So congratulations. You've endeared yourself to the staff and faculty. You're very big with community, and we welcome you aboard.
They will challenge you every day.
Thank you. You always go above and beyond, and we really appreciate you.
Yeah.
Why can't you keep pushing me further away from, I like sitting next to
No,
them.
I think we should farther away. Okay, then that brings us back to public comment, and this can be on anything, even outside of the agenda items. Is there anyone here in person who would like to comment during public comment? Go ahead.
I'd just like to say thank you for the opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to getting on board. Thank you.
Now, will you be referred to as Chef Larry or Chef Fortunato?
Whatever.
No.
Chef Fortunato.
Okay.
It's one of those things, don't the kid, it's kind of like grandparents, right? They get their nickname from the kids, right? So I think we gotta see, right? They'll probably
Oh,
come
the
up with
kids.
some version.
I don't know. I don't know if you want to leave it up to the kids. We can ask Jocelyn one.
I don't know, I'm pretty sure Chef Hot is probably never gonna switch to the Chef Underdown. We just had.
We already had that conversation.
It's tough. Thank you. Good.
I would just like to, again, thank everybody. I feel like I spent a lot of time with all of you this summer, meeting over several different occasions. And as a parent, I have a lot of love and respect for not only CTE, but also the opportunities that my daughter was provided here. And I can think of nothing that is more delightful as a parent and an educator than to be able to influence the community of the school that your children attend. And so I want to thank you all for extending the opportunity to me and taking a chance on me and allowing me to become part of the community. And I look forward to working with all of you and building a team that supports each other, shares our successes, rallies together when we fall, and it is focused on what's best for kids. So thank you.
Awesome, well said, thank you. Thank you so much. Anybody else in person? I'll just ditto to what everybody else said. I'm excited to be back, and I really look forward to working with the kids.
Jocelyn, a speech.
I mean, I feel kind of obligated to say.
Seems like a wonderful group of people.
Yeah.
One of my first meetings, and I'm so impressed with your dedication.
Yep.
And just caring for the kids, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm really excited to see everything that this team of people are going to accomplish. We have really great people here, really passionate, kid-centered. It's gonna be an exciting time.
I think I've been here more than I've been at work the past 2 months, like with all these